There's a specific kind of financial damage that does not announce itself. It does not arrive as a single catastrophic event, a market crash, a job loss, a medical emergency. It arrives quietly, automatically, monthly, in amounts small enough to feel harmless and consistent enough to eventually consume years of financial security you spent decades building. And if you are over 60, this silent erosion is happening to you right now, today, whether you feel it or not. Here is what I need you to sit with for just a moment before we go any further. According to the Federal Reserve's most recent report on the economic well-being of U.S. households, more than 40% of Americans over 60 report that their monthly expenses regularly exceed what they expected when they planned their retirement. Not because of emergencies, not because of inflation alone, because of spending patterns that were built for a different phase of life and never updated for the one they are actually living. This video is about 5 specific categories of spending that are quietly, systematically, and in many cases, invisibly draining the financial security of people over 60 across America right now. Some of them will surprise you. One of them is going to make you uncomfortable. And at least one of them, I'm almost certain, applies directly to your life today. Stay through all 10 sections of this video because by the end, you will not just know what to stop buying. You will understand exactly why you have been buying it, what it has actually cost you, and what to do instead. That clarity alone is worth more than most paid financial consultations, and it starts right now. There's a financial transition that happens somewhere between your late 50s and your early 60s that most people feel, but very few can articulate precisely. It is the moment when your relationship with money shifts from accumulation mode to preservation and distribution mode, and the spending habits that were manageable, even reasonable, during accumulation become genuinely dangerous in preservation. Understanding this transition is not optional information for people in your situation. It is the foundational framework for every financial decision you will make for the rest of your life. During your working years, a financial mistake had a recovery mechanism built in. You spent too much in January, you earned more in February. You made a bad purchase in 2015, your salary in 2016 absorbed it. The income stream was ongoing, growing in many cases, and functioned as a natural corrective force against spending errors. After 60, and certainly after retirement, that corrective mechanism shrinks dramatically or disappears entirely. The Social Security Administration reports that the average monthly Social Security benefit in 2024 is approximately $1,907. For most retirees, that is the floor of their monthly income, not a supplement to a larger income. When income becomes fixed or significantly reduced, the mathematics of every spending decision change fundamentally. A $200 per month unnecessary expense at 45 costs you $2,400 per year, which your income absorbs. That same $200 per month unnecessary expense at 65, drawn from a retirement account, costs you the $2,400 plus the compound growth that money would have generated, plus potentially the tax consequence of the withdrawal, plus the reduced account balance available for every future year. The Consumer Expenditure Survey from the Bureau of Labor Statistics shows that households led by people 65 and older spend on average $51,000 per year while earning significantly less. That gap is not sustainable, and the 5 categories we are about to discuss are among the primary drivers of it. Here is the mindset shift that changes everything. At 60 plus, every dollar you spend has 2 identities simultaneously. It is a present purchase, and it is a future sacrifice. When you spend $300 on something you do not genuinely need today, you are not just spending $300. You are choosing that purchase over the $300 being available to you at 72, 75, 80. The freedom you protect by not spending it is not abstract. It is the freedom to choose your own health care, to stay in your home longer, to not need your children's financial help, to sleep without the particular anxiety that comes from watching savings shrink faster than expected. Simplicity, it turns out, is not just a philosophical preference for people in this stage of life. It is a financial strategy. The Harvard Joint Center for Housing Studies has documented consistently that households that simplify their physical and financial footprint after 60 report higher financial resilience, lower monthly stress expenses, and significantly greater confidence in their ability to sustain their lifestyle through age 85 and beyond. The connection between owning less and fearing less is not accidental. It is structural, and it is one of the most powerful things you can act on starting today. Okay, quick pause. If you've made it this far, you're definitely not watching this the same way most people do. While a lot of viewers skim headlines and move on, you're still here, taking the time to actually understand what's going on beneath the surface. That tells me you value depth over noise and clarity over quick takes. And that's a rare combination. So I'm curious, drop your city, local time, and weather in the comments below. It's always interesting to see where people are watching from, and how far this kind of thinking is reaching across the world. Now, let's continue. Let me describe a phenomenon that MIT Age Lab researchers call identity-based spending, because it is the psychological engine behind most of the financial waste we are going to discuss today. Identity-based spending is what happens when you continue purchasing things, not because you need them or genuinely want them, but because they signal to yourself and others a version of who you were at a previous stage of your life. It is the reason a 68-year-old who has not played golf in 3 years still maintains a full club membership. It is the reason a retired professional still buys the luxury car that communicated status during their working years. It is the reason a grandmother whose children are grown and independent still maintains a 4-bedroom house she uses only 30% of. The research on this phenomenon is both fascinating and financially important. A study published in the Journal of Consumer Psychology found that adults over 55 are significantly more likely than younger adults to make purchases that are connected to identity preservation during periods of life transition. The retirement transition, the empty nest transition, the loss of a spouse, these are precisely the moments when identity-based spending accelerates. Not because people become less intelligent, but because the purchases serve a genuine psychological function of continuity in a period when almost everything else is changing. Boredom buying is the second psychological driver that financial advisors who work with the 60-plus population identify consistently, but that almost no financial content addresses directly. When structure disappears from daily life, as it does for many people after retirement, unstructured time creates a low-grade restlessness that consumer culture is extraordinarily well designed to exploit. Online shopping, in particular, provides a stimulus reward cycle that mimics the sense of accomplishment and anticipation that work previously provided. The Stanford Center on Longevity has documented that the dopamine response to an online purchase, the anticipation before the package arrives, is neurologically similar to other reward-seeking behaviors. Recognizing boredom, buying not as weakness, but as a predictable neurological response to structural change, is the first step to interrupting it. Helping others too much is the most emotionally charged spending pattern of all, and we will address it in detail in the 5 items section. But the psychological foundation deserves acknowledgement here. The drive to help adult children, grandchildren, or aging parents is not a character flaw. It is a manifestation of love, generosity, and identity as a provider and protector. The problem is not the impulse. The problem is when the impulse consistently overrides the mathematical reality that you cannot protect the people you love from a financially depleted position. The Merrill Lynch and Age Wave study, Family and Retirement, the Elephant in the Room, found that 53% of parents over 60 who provide regular financial support to adult children report that doing so has directly compromised their own retirement security. That is not a small number. That is more than half. Fear buying is the 4th psychological driver, and it is one that the financial services and insurance industries are acutely aware of and actively cultivate. Fear buying is the purchase of products and services that provide psychological reassurance against unlikely or already insured risks. It is the extended warranty on the appliance that already has a manufacturer guarantee. It is the additional insurance rider on top of adequate existing coverage. It is the stockpiling of supplies driven by anxiety rather than actual shortage. The Federal Trade Commission has published multiple consumer alerts about the specific targeting of older Americans with fear-based financial products, precisely because the data shows this demographic is more susceptible to fear framing in purchasing decisions. Convenience addiction is the 5th driver and the one that has accelerated most dramatically in the post-pandemic period. When delivery became normalized for everything from groceries to restaurant meals to household supplies, the convenience premium became invisible. A C+R research study found that the average American spends approximately $219 per month on subscription services alone, and West Monroe Partners found that when asked to estimate their own subscription spending, most people underestimate by more than $100 per month. For people over 60 on fixed or reduced incomes, the normalization of convenience spending, the $3 delivery fee here, the $15 monthly subscription there, the $25 meal kit box, represents a collectively significant drain that never feels like a single large decision, because it never is one. The 5 things to stop buying now thing number 1, extended warranties and retail add-ons. You are standing at the register, or you are at the point of online checkout and the prompt appears. For just a few dollars more per month, you can protect this purchase against defects, accidents, and malfunctions for the next 3 to 5 years. The language is reassuring. The price sounds reasonable in the moment, and something in your brain, the part that spent 6 decades learning that things break and repairs are expensive, says yes. Here is what that yes is actually costing you. According to Consumer Reports, which has tracked extended warranty value for decades, extended warranties provide net financial benefit to the consumer in fewer than 20% of cases. The remaining 80% of the time, the consumer either never needs the coverage, discovers that the warranty excludes the specific failure that occurred, or finds that the repair cost would have been less than the cumulative warranty premiums paid. The financial math is deliberately constructed by retailers to favor the house, not the consumer, because these warranties carry profit margins of between 40 and 80% for the seller. When a Best Buy employee is trained to offer you a warranty at checkout, they are not offering you protection. They are offering their employer a high-margin revenue opportunity. Here's the number that should permanently change how you think about this. The National Retail Federation estimates that extended warranties and service plans generate approximately $40 billion per year in revenue for American retailers. That $40 billion comes almost entirely from the gap between what consumers pay for warranties and what retailers actually pay out in claims. That gap is your money. For every dollar in extended warranties sold, retailers pay out on average between 20 and 30 cents in actual claims. You are, on average, paying $3 to $4 for every dollar of protection you actually receive. The deeper issue for people over 60 specifically is that extended warranties exploit a genuine and reasonable anxiety about repair costs. A broken refrigerator, a failed dishwasher, a malfunctioning HVAC unit, these are real and potentially expensive problems, and the fear of them is legitimate. But the solution to that fear is not an extended warranty with 40% profit margin baked in for someone else. The solution is a properly funded emergency repair fund of $2,000 to $3,000 in a high-yield savings account, which you control completely, which earns you interest rather than costing you premiums, and which covers any appliance failure at full actual cost rather than navigating warranty exclusion clauses. The add-on ecosystem extends far beyond appliances and electronics. It includes credit card payment protection plans, rental car damage waivers you are already covered for by your existing auto insurance, flight cancellation insurance for trips already covered by your credit card's travel protection, and accidental damage coverage on items that your homeowner's or renter's insurance already protects. Each of these is a legitimate sounding product, sold at a premium by a party that has precisely calculated that you will pay more in premiums than you will ever collect in claims. Stop buying the reassurance. Build the fund instead. Thing number 2, new cars on short replacement cycles. This item is the single largest silent destroyer of retirement wealth in the 60-plus American population, and it operates so gradually and so normally that most people never identify it as the problem it actually is. Here is the mechanism. You buy a new car. It feels reliable, comfortable, and representative of a standard of living you have earned. 3 to 5 years later, the car is still running perfectly, but it feels slightly dated, or a new model has features yours does not, or the dealer calls with a compelling offer. And so you trade in and start again. This cycle, repeated every 3 to 5 years across a retirement, quietly consumes between $100,000 and $200,000 in avoidable depreciation, financing costs, and transaction fees that most people never add up in total. Edmunds.com, which tracks vehicle depreciation with granular precision, reports that the average new vehicle loses between 20 and 30% of its value in the first 12 months of ownership alone. In dollar terms, a $45,000 new vehicle is worth between $31,500 and $36,000 by the time it is 1 year old, a paper loss of $9,000 to $13,500 in a single year without a single mechanical failure, without a single accident, simply because of the economics of how new vehicle markets work. When you trade in a 3-year-old vehicle for a new one, you're absorbing the deepest portion of that depreciation curve and then restarting it immediately. The Iowa Annual Cost of Car Ownership Report calculates the true total cost of new vehicle ownership at an average of $10,728 per year, when depreciation, financing, insurance, maintenance, fuel, and fees are combined. A reliable used vehicle purchased outright or with minimal financing at 3 to 4 years old, which means someone else has absorbed the steepest depreciation, can be maintained at a true total cost of $4,000 to $6,000 per year for the same transportation utility. The difference over 10 years of retirement is between $47,000 and $67,000, money that could instead be funding your health care, your housing security, or your grandchildren's education. Here is the counterintuitive truth about vehicles and identity after 60. J.D. Power's Vehicle Dependability Study consistently shows that modern vehicles built after 2015 are mechanically reliable at 100,000, 150,000, and even 200,000 miles at rates that previous generations of vehicles never achieved. The case for frequent vehicle replacement that existed in 1985, when a car with 80,000 miles was genuinely approaching end of life, simply does not exist in the same way in 2024. A well-maintained 2018 or 2019 vehicle with 60,000 miles is, by every engineering measure, an early middle age. Treating it as old is not a practical judgment. It is a marketing-induced belief that costs you tens of thousands of dollars. The emotional component here deserves honest acknowledgement. For many people, particularly men, Vehicle choice is connected to identity in ways that run deep. The car you drive communicates something about who you are and what you have achieved. Driving an older vehicle can feel like a visible admission of financial constraint that pride resists. But here is the reframe that actually matters at 60. The person who is driving a paid-off 2019 sedan while directing the money saved toward a retirement account that will fund 25 years of financial independence is not displaying financial constraint. They are displaying financial intelligence. The vehicle is a tool. Your retirement security is your legacy. Thing number 3, the oversized home you no longer need. This is the item that is going to create the most internal resistance, and I want to acknowledge that resistance directly before we go into the numbers. Your home is not just a financial asset. It is the place where your children grew up, where Thanksgiving happens, where your life has a physical address in the deepest sense. The emotional weight of that reality is real. It is legitimate, and I am not dismissing it. What I am asking you to do is look at what that emotional weight is costing you in concrete financial terms, because in many cases, the number is large enough to change how you think about the decision. The Harvard Joint Center for Housing Studies reports that Americans age 65 and older are more likely to be living in homes with 3 or more bedrooms than any other age demographic, despite having, on average, the fewest household members. The empty nest homeowner is paying to heat, cool, maintain, insure, and property tax bedrooms, bathrooms, and common spaces that serve no functional purpose in their daily life. The AARP Public Policy Institute estimates that the maintenance cost premium of an oversized home for an older adult, the gap between what they actually need and what they are maintaining, ranges from $500 to $1,200 per month depending on the market. Let us make that concrete with a real scenario. A 64-year-old widow in a 4-bedroom suburban home worth $340,000 with $180,000 in equity is paying $1,200 per month in mortgage, $400 in property taxes, $250 in utilities above what a smaller home would require, and approximately $300 per month in maintenance averaging over the year. That is $2,150 per month in housing costs. A 2-bedroom condominium in the same general market costs her $850 per month all in. The monthly difference of $1,300, directed toward retirement savings or healthcare reserves, represents $156,000 over 10 years before any investment return. And that calculation does not include the equity liberation from selling the larger home. The conversation about downsizing is also the conversation about freedom, and this is where the reframe becomes powerful. The family home at 65 is often not an asset that provides freedom. It is an asset that consumes freedom in the form of maintenance weekends, lawn care decisions, HVAC replacements, roof assessments, and the particular psychological weight of managing a large property alone. The people who downsize and report the experience honestly, not the people who felt pressured into it, but the ones who chose it strategically, consistently describe the aftermath as lighter than they expected. Not just financially lighter, emotionally lighter. The relief of having a home that matches your actual life rather than a previous version of it is something that no financial calculation fully captures, but that almost everyone who makes the move reports. Thing number 4, unlimited financial support to adult children. This is the one. This is the item that is going to create the strongest emotional reaction, the fastest impulse to dismiss, and the most internal conflict of any of the 5. I know that. I'm going to ask you to stay with it anyway, because the Pew Research Center, the Merrill Lynch Age Wave Study, and the AARP research all point to the same conclusion. Financially unlimited support to adult children is the most common and most damaging retirement security threat that people over 60 voluntarily create for themselves. And it operates almost entirely in silence because love makes it feel non-negotiable. The Pew Research Center found that American parents provide an average of $4,500 per year in financial support to adult children over 22, and that number rises significantly in higher income households. The Merrill Lynch and Age Wave Family and Retirement Study, which surveyed more than 9,000 Americans, found that parents over 50 collectively transfer more money to adult children each year than they contribute to their own retirement accounts. Read that again. More money flowing out to support adult children than flowing in to secure the parents' own future. And 53% of those parents reported that this support had directly compromised their retirement security. Here's the question that cuts through the emotional fog of this issue. If you deplete your retirement savings supporting adult children through their 20s and 30s, and you arrive at 75 without adequate financial resources, who bears the cost of that outcome? The answer, in most cases, is your children. The parent who sacrificed their retirement security to help their children ends up, in the scenario that follows, becoming a financial and logistical burden to those same children a decade or two later. The most loving long-term financial decision a parent over 60 can make for their adult children is to protect their own financial independence aggressively, because a financially secure parent at 75 is not a burden. A financially depleted parent at 75 is one of the most difficult situations an adult child can navigate. This does not mean cutting off your children, refusing to help in genuine emergencies, or choosing money over relationship. It means establishing clarity about what financial help you can genuinely afford without compromising your own security, communicating that clearly and with love, and distinguishing between emergencies that warrant support and lifestyle shortfalls that are your adult children's responsibility to resolve through their own growth. The distinction between a child in a genuine crisis and a child who has learned that financial discomfort will be absorbed by a parent is not always easy to see when you're inside the relationship, but it is the most important financial discernment you can develop at this stage of your life. Thing number 5, the subscription and convenience economy. The 5th category is the one that most people will recognize instantly and have been meaning to address for the last 2 years. It is the sprawling, auto-renewing, barely noticed ecosystem of subscriptions, streaming services, convenience fees, delivery premiums, and automated charges that collectively consume more monthly cash flow than most people realize, because each individual charge is small enough to feel irrelevant in isolation. C+R research found that the average American spends $219 per month on subscription services, and West Monroe Partners found that when asked to estimate their own subscription costs, people underestimate by an average of $130 per month. That gap between what people think they spend and what they actually spend is pure financial waste. The subscription economy was engineered with extraordinary sophistication to be difficult to notice and even more difficult to cancel. Free trials that convert to paid subscriptions, annual billing cycles timed so the charge hits when you have other things on your mind. Cancellation processes that require phone calls during limited business hours. The friction is not accidental. Every element of the subscription renewal process is designed by teams of behavioral economists to maximize the probability that you keep paying for something you are not actively using. You are not absent-minded for having accumulated subscriptions you do not use. You are the intended victim of a deliberately constructed system. For people over 60, the specific danger of subscription creep is amplified by 3 factors that combine into a genuinely significant financial leak. First, many subscriptions were set up during a different life phase, a higher income working phase, when the cost was genuinely trivial relative to income. Second, the psychological cost of cancellation, the mild friction and mild guilt, is often perceived as larger than the actual financial cost of the subscription, creating a systematic bias toward keeping things rather than cutting them. Third, the cumulative total of all subscriptions is almost never visible in one place at one time, so the brain never has to confront the full number. When people do the exercise of listing every single recurring charge in one document and totaling them, the reaction is almost universally shock. The convenience premium compounds the problem. The delivery fee that seems small on a single order becomes significant when it is the default for every grocery run, every restaurant meal, every household supply. Statista data shows that food delivery spending among Americans over 60 grew 63% between 2018 and 2023. At an average delivery premium of $8 to $15 per order above the in-store cost, including delivery fees, service fees, and the now normalized practice of tipping on delivery apps, a household that orders delivery 3 times per week is spending between $1,200 and $2,300 per year in pure convenience premium, above the actual cost of the food. That is not the cost of the food. That is the cost of the convenience of the food. At 60, on a fixed or reduced income, that distinction matters enormously. What to buy instead? Now that we have named what to stop buying, it is equally important to name what is worth spending money on at this stage of life, because the goal of this video is not deprivation. The goal is reallocation. You are not being asked to have less. You are being asked to redirect the same financial resources toward things that actually increase the quality, security, and freedom of your life, rather than eroding them. Time is the most valuable purchase available to you after 60, and it is consistently undervalued in consumer culture because it cannot be packaged and sold at a retail checkout. Buying back time, through strategic simplification of your home, your commitments, your financial complexity, your possessions, delivers a return that no investment product can match because time is the one resource that cannot be replenished. A 65-year-old who simplifies their financial and physical life is not just saving money. They are reclaiming hours per week that were previously consumed by managing complexity that never needed to exist. Health investment is the highest return expenditure available at 60. And unlike most financial investments, the return is both financial and experiential simultaneously. We documented in the earlier sections the direct financial cost of preventable chronic disease, but the experiential dimension is equally compelling. The 65-year-old who is physically active, metabolically healthy, and mentally engaged has access to a quality of daily life that no amount of money can purchase for someone who is not. The gym membership, the quality food, the preventive health care appointments, the mental health support, these are not indulgences at 60. They are the infrastructure of the life you're trying to protect. Emergency resilience is worth every dollar it costs to build. A fully funded emergency reserve of 3 to 6 months of essential expenses, held in a high-yield savings account currently earning 4 to 5%, is not dead money. It is the financial immune system that prevents a single unexpected event from triggering a cascade of retirement account withdrawals, new debt, and compounding financial stress. Every dollar you redirect from unnecessary spending toward emergency resilience is a dollar that permanently reduces the probability that one bad event derails the entire plan. Hidden wealth leaks nobody notices. Beyond the 5 major categories, there's a second tier of spending erosion that operates even more invisibly because the individual amounts are smaller and the patterns are even more normalized. Insurance creep is perhaps the most underappreciated of these. Most people set up their insurance coverage at a specific life moment, a new home purchase, a new car, a family expansion, and then allow it to auto-renew indefinitely without reassessing whether the coverage levels still match their actual needs and risk exposure. An independent insurance review, which most brokers will conduct at no charge, frequently identifies between $150 and $400 per month in premium reduction opportunities, simply by adjusting coverage to match the life you're actually living now rather than the life you were living when you set up the policy. Cable and satellite television packages deserve specific attention because they represent one of the clearest examples of inertia spending in the American household. The average cable bundle costs between $120 and $200 per month in 2024. The average person over 60 actively watches 3 to 6 channels out of the 200 to 300 included in their package. Streaming services that cover the specific content they actually watch cost between $20 and $50 per month total. The cable company's business model depends entirely on the customer not doing this math. And most customers, because the cancellation process is deliberately frustrating, never do. That gap between $70 and $150 per month in this category alone is pure recoverable cash flow. Unused memberships follow a similar pattern. The gym you joined in January that you stopped visiting in March, but kept paying for because cancellation requires an in-person visit during specific hours. The warehouse club membership that made financial sense when you were buying for a family of 4, but produces minimal savings now that you are shopping for 1 or 2 people. The professional association membership maintained from a career that ended 3 years ago. Each of these is a small financial leak that requires only a single phone call or cancellation form to permanently stop. The aggregate of all of them, addressed in a single afternoon, typically recovers between $100 and $250 per month. The retirement math nobody shows you. I want to show you a set of numbers that most financial content never presents because it requires combining the small habit changes with time, and the result is both simple and genuinely startling. Most people think of saving money in terms of the monthly amount saved, but the real measurement unit is the 20-year retirement income that monthly amount, properly deployed, can generate. Let me show you what that looks like. If you identify and redirect $200 per month from unnecessary spending into a high-yield savings account at 4.5% annual interest, over 10 years, that $200 per month becomes approximately $30,000 in additional savings. That $30,000, withdrawn at a conservative 4% annual withdrawal rate, generates $1,200 per year, or $100 per month, of additional retirement income for life. $200 of monthly savings today creates $100 of monthly income in retirement permanently. That ratio seems unfavorable until you apply it to $500 per month. $500 per month redirected from the 5 categories we discussed, a fully achievable number for most households, if the audit is done honestly, becomes approximately $75,000 over 10 years at 4.5%. At a 4% withdrawal rate, that is $3,000 per year, or $250 per month, of permanent additional retirement income. Combined with optimized Social Security timing, as we discussed in our previous video, in the strategic deployment of home equity we outlined earlier, the compound effect of multiple levers pulled simultaneously creates an outcome that looks nothing like the starting position. This is why the audit matters. This is why the small amounts matter. They are not small. They are the building blocks of financial independence. The peace dividend. There is a benefit to this simplification strategy that does not appear in any spreadsheet and cannot be measured in dollars, but that may be the most significant gain of all. When you own less, maintain less, and spend less on things that do not genuinely serve your life, the cognitive and emotional load of your financial life decreases measurably. Financial stress is not just an unpleasant feeling. It is a documented chronic stressor with physiological consequences, elevated cortisol, disrupted sleep, impaired immune function that directly compromise the health outcomes we discussed in the previous section. Simplifying your financial life is quite literally a health intervention. The research on this is consistent across multiple disciplines. A study published in the Journal of Financial Therapy found that individuals who reduced their financial complexity through deliberate simplification reported significant improvements in sleep quality, relationship satisfaction, and subjective well-being within 90 days, independent of whether their actual financial position had improved. The relief of knowing exactly what you own, exactly what you owe, and exactly what is happening with your money automatically generates a baseline sense of control that chronic financial complexity denies you. That control is not a luxury. At 60, when health and peace of mind are the twin pillars of quality of life, it is arguably the highest value financial outcome available. Freedom is the word that comes up most consistently when people who have made these changes describe what they gained. Not the freedom of abundance, necessarily, but the freedom of clarity. The freedom of knowing that your financial choices are intentional rather than habitual. The freedom of not dreading the monthly bank statement. The freedom of having a home that serves you rather than consumes you. A vehicle that transports you rather than defines you. And a monthly cash flow that moves toward your future rather than evaporating into the infrastructure of a life designed for a different version of yourself. Real stories that bring the numbers to life. Let me tell you about a couple we will call Robert and Patricia, both 67, recently retired from careers in education and healthcare respectively, with a combined Social Security income of $3,400 per month and approximately $80,000 in combined retirement savings. When they first looked at their monthly expenses, honestly, they identified a pattern that embarrassed them both because of how normalized it had become. They were trading in their vehicles every 4 years, maintaining a streaming and cable package that cost $189 per month for channels they watched maybe 20% of, paying for a gym membership Robert had not used in 14 months, automatically renewing 4 software subscriptions from Robert's previous job, and providing between $400 and $800 per month in informal financial support to their 31-year-old son. Over 90 days, Robert and Patricia made the following changes with no dramatic lifestyle sacrifice. They committed to keeping their current vehicles for a minimum of 7 more years. They canceled cable, kept 2 streaming services, and saved $140 per month. They canceled the gym membership and replaced it with a community center pass at $22 per month. They eliminated the 4 unused software subscriptions, saving $67 per month. They had a direct and loving conversation with their son about establishing a clear boundary on financial support with a 6-month transition plan. Their monthly cash flow improved by approximately $850 per month without a single change to the quality of their daily life as they actually experienced it. Consider a woman we will call Sandra, 63, widowed 2 years ago, living alone in the 4-bedroom home where she raised 3 children. Sandra was not in financial crisis. She was in financial drift, spending more than she needed to maintain a home built for a family that no longer lived there, without any plan connecting her current spending to her future financial security. After doing the math on the actual monthly cost of her home versus a 2-bedroom condominium in the same city, Sandra discovered she was spending $900 per month more than she needed to on housing alone. She also discovered in the attic and garage of that house between $12,000 and $15,000 worth of tools, equipment, furniture, and collectibles that had not been touched in years. Sandra downsized 18 months ago. She describes the experience not as loss, but as the most clarifying thing she has done in decades. There is a retired contractor we will call James, 69, who spent 3 years after retirement buying tools, equipment, and hobby supplies for projects he intended to start. His garage was full, his storage unit was 80% full, and he was paying $240 per month for the storage unit on top of the psychological weight of a project list that kept growing without completion. James spent 1 weekend photographing everything in the storage unit and listing it on Facebook Marketplace and Craigslist. Over 6 weeks, he sold approximately $9,400 worth of items he had forgotten he owned, canceled the storage unit, and used the proceeds to fully fund his emergency reserve for the first time in his adult life. He describes the experience as one of the most financially productive weekends of his life. Your action plan for the next 7 days? Everything we have discussed in this video only creates value if it moves from understanding into action. And the most effective way to ensure that happens is to make the first steps specific, bounded, and immediately executable. Here is your 7-day plan. Day 1 is the audit day. Set aside 90 minutes, pull every bank statement and credit card statement from the last 3 months, and write down every single recurring charge. Every subscription, every membership, every automatic renewal, every insurance premium, every convenience fee. Total them. The total will almost certainly be higher than you expect. And that discomfort is productive because it converts abstract awareness into concrete motivation. Day 2 is cancellation day. Take your audit list and identify every subscription or membership that you have not actively used in the last 30 days. Cancel them. Not tomorrow, not after you think about it, today. The cancellation of a service you're not using is a purely positive financial action with zero downside, and the minor friction of the cancellation process is the only thing standing between you and the recovered cash flow. Day 3 is declutter and liquidation day. Walk through your home and storage spaces and identify items of value that you have not used in more than 1 year. Photograph them. List them on Facebook, Marketplace, Craigslist, or eBay. The goal is not to sell everything. The goal is to convert dormant assets into liquid cash that can be directed toward an emergency fund or a retirement account. Most people who do this exercise recover between $2,000 and $12,000 in the first 30 days. Day 4 is bill renegotiation day. Call your car insurance provider, your homeowner's or renter's insurance provider, your internet service provider, and your cell phone carrier. Tell each of them that you are reviewing your costs and considering switching providers. In most cases, the retention department will offer you a reduced rate or added value to keep your business. This single afternoon of phone calls has saved people between $100 and $300 per month consistently. Day 5 is the habit reset day. Identify the one spending pattern from the 5 we discussed that has the largest impact on your specific financial situation. Write down the exact monthly cost of that pattern. Write down what that money would be worth in your retirement account in 10 years. Then write down one concrete behavioral change you will make starting today to interrupt that pattern, whether it is a new vehicle replacement timeline, a conversation with an adult child, or a commitment to cook at home 3 more days per week. Day 6 is automation day. If you have cleared even $100 per month of unnecessary spending, set up an automatic transfer of that exact amount into either a high-yield savings account or your retirement account starting today. Automation removes the decision from the monthly budget conversation and ensures the recovered cash flow actually reaches its intended destination. The transfer that requires a conscious decision every month is the transfer that gets skipped when life becomes complicated. The automated transfer happens regardless. Day 7 is the peace plan day. Write down in specific terms what financial security looks like to you at 75. Not a number necessarily, but a description. What choices do you want to have available? What do you want to not be worried about? What does a typical month look like financially? Then look at the actions you have taken in the previous 6 days and trace the connection between those actions and that vision. The connection is the plan. The plan is already in motion. I want to end this video with something that I hope changes the frame through which you heard everything in the last hour. None of what we discussed today is about having less. It is about having more of what actually matters at this stage of your life. More security, more choice, more peace, more months and years where money is a tool that serves you rather than a source of anxiety that governs you. The 5 things we told you to stop buying are not the things that have made your life rich. The extended warranties and the oversized homes and the too frequent new cars and the unlimited support for adult children and the invisible subscription empire, none of these are the source of your joy, your connection, your meaning, or your identity in any deep sense. They are habits, many of them built during a different phase of life. Most of them now running on autopilot in a life that has changed significantly since they were established. What you're protecting by making these changes is not a budget. You're protecting your ability to choose, the ability to choose where you live at 72, the ability to choose your own health care, the ability to choose when and whether to work, the ability to say yes to things that genuinely matter and no to obligations that do not. That freedom is not a number on a statement. It is the quality of your daily experience for the next 25 years, and it is built, one redirected dollar at a time, by decisions that begin today. The people who make these changes consistently describe a specific experience approximately 90 days after they begin. They describe it as breathing more easily. The financial anxiety that sat in the background of every day, quiet but constant, begins to lift as clarity replaces complexity and intention replaces inertia. That relief is available to you. It does not require a windfall or a perfect market or a lucky break. It requires only the decision to look honestly at where your money is going, redirect it toward where you actually want your life to go, and begin today rather than tomorrow. The window between 60 and 75 is not a closing chapter. It is the chapter where everything you have learned, everything you have survived, and everything you have built in terms of character, judgment, and self-knowledge becomes the foundation of a financial life that is intentional, sustainable, and genuinely yours. You have earned that, and you have the tools to build it starting right now. Leave me a comment below and tell me your age, your city, and the one item from the 5 that hit closest to home for you. Tell me which of the 5 you are going to address first. I read every comment, and this community of people who are taking this seriously and supporting each other is one of the most valuable things about this channel. If this video delivered real value to you today, subscribe so that the next piece of information reaches you when you need it. Because there is more where this came from, and the conversation we started here is one worth continuing.